Windows Server 2019 System Administration. Welcome back everybody. I'm Prakash Pradhan, your trainer for this entire series. So in today's topic, we're going to discuss about the installation of FTP server. That's by default port number 21. So the main purpose of using the FTP server is to access your file via this FTP server and also allow our clients to upload and download any kind of document that's been shared or that's been given permission in your network. So this FTP server we can use in our network without using any third-party software or without using any application software via the browser or via your network share as well. But right now, for instance, I have brought one I have brought one app over here. That's a cute FTP. This is the FTP client server, your application. That means using this cute FTP client application, you can access your FTP server. It is not mandatory to use the same this cute FTP. We do have many other FTP applications like your FileZilla is also there, cute FTP. There are many in the market. If you go to the Google, you will get so many. Okay. So right now, for example, in our purpose, I have used this cute FTP in order to use as a FTP client. And FTP server role is not installed in this PC, in this operating system. So let's see how to install this feature. Okay. That's a role, in fact, not feature. So let's start installing the FTP server role. Let's go to the server and then we'll install it. Server manager, go to manage, add remove. Anyone can configure this, and you don't need to have a server operating system for this purpose, as you can use the client operating system. You can even install in Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 10, any client operating system. Also you can make it as your FTP server. Now then you go to IIS and there you'll find the FTP. See here, FTP server. So after I install this FTP server, there will be one folder inside our inetpub folder named FTP root, and using this FTP root only, we may be able to access or share any kind of document in order to access for the FTP server. But it is not mandatory all the time to use the same location, because the default location of your FTP server, your FTP root folder, is the C drive, and we never use or we hardly use the location of C drive in order to access any of the resources, because if the system gets crashed, that is the first drive that will get affected. So that's why I'm gonna show you the next alternate option so that you can share any other folder rather than the root of your FTP. So for that purpose, by the time it's been installed, I would like to show you over here. I have created one folder in a C drive, okay, and that folder I'm going to use as a path for my FTP server. Okay, you don't have to use the main one. That means the root, FTP root all the time. So here, if you see over here, inetpub is there. Of course, inside this we're going to have that location. Now here there is a one folder called shadow. So I previously shared so that your time will be saved. So I have shared this folder, giving a specific permission to one user along with the administrator. That's a user named shadow. If you remember, we have created last time shadow and previous version. So that's why I'm going to use the same option. That means the same user account rather than wasting your time. See, administrator has owner right and shadow named user can read and write. Okay, if you give a write permission, the user will be able to upload as well in your FTP server. If you give only read option, they will not be. So now this folder is shared. Now I would like to make sure that this folder is shared over the network or not. So let's make it sure via UNC path. You need to understand, if the folder is not shared, the client won't be able to access that FTP server. Okay, so here I'm going to access it. This is our IP address and there is a folder called shadow. Okay, and there are 3-4 files I have created previously, so all these files are there. That means anyone can access this file inside a folder using this network access path. Now I hope by the time your FTP server role has been added, see, it's almost done. Okay, FTP server is done. And I was talking about that folder that will get installed after you install your FTP server. That folder is FTP root. That is by default location of the folder. FTP root after installing FTP server will be inside the inetpub. See, inetpub FTP root. See, This is the default location actually for the FTP server, but we do have alternate provision in order to host our FTP server in some other location. So that depends upon the need of the client. Okay, now let's configure FTP server. Go to IIS because it is mostly accessed via the web browser. That's why we have this option, but we are going to use the third-party software over here. That's a Qt FTP. So here now first I need to show you if there are previously created any of the FTP. I'm going to delete it if we have, because I often create. Okay, this one is here. Let's remove this one because I need to show you from the scratch. So this is the default website, and don't forget default website means localhost. Okay, it shows your page like this. This does not mean this is an error. This means your IIS is installed. Okay, use localhost. That means your IIS. See now, it will display, because I have seen many of the clients, they often complain that whenever I hit localhost, it shows this screen. That means something is wrong. No, it's not wrong. It means your IIS service is installed over here. This is the normal. Now over here, I'm going to host it a new FTP server. We are not going to host a website. We are going to add a FTP site and then give a name. Let's say Viatech FTP. Now this is the most important part. You will have to specify the location of your this FTP folder actually. That is going to be accessed by the client. So I'm going to give you the location that I have used last time. As I said, there is a folder inside a C drive. I'm not going to use this inetpub FTP root C here. I'm not going to use this. I'm going to use the different location, and that is all of that I would like to show you over here. See, I've created this shadow. That means in your network environment, this folder may be in some other drive or sometime in the network shared drive. Go to next. Now over here, what it is trying to ask you, in which IP would you like to bind this FTP? If you do not have more than one IP, then you can leave it all unassigned, but I suggest you to use this specific IP because sometimes we may be using the multiple IP for hosting the application. That means FTP server over here. Now after that, it's asking you for the security level. That means would you like to integrate your certificate for this IP? And next time, in next video, we are going to see how to host with the name as well. Okay, that's why I break down this tutorial into two parts. So right now we do not have any certificate. If I had any certificate, then I have to select the name will be listed over here. Though I don't have, so that's why it's blind. Now go to no SSL because we don't have certificate. Port number is 21, I told you. Next. Now it is asking you about the authentication, because whenever we talk about using your FTP server, the client is going to access your file. So when it comes a matter of accessing a file, I do believe you all understand there's a security issue. So it's asking you, what about your authentication, whoever comes to access this FTP server? Would you like anyone to access? No authentication, or you would like to have authentication? Anonymous means anyone can access without authentication, and that we are not going to do over here. So I'm going to select basic. That means basic. This button, if I check over here, that means the user will be authenticated by username and the password. Now allow access to whom? Yeah, over here it says no, allow my clients using username and password. And to whom? That means allow access to whom. Now I'm going to give specific users. You can specify multiple users over here, or you can select the groups also. So whoever are the member of those group or that group can access. That means it saves your time rather than using individual. So right now I'm going to use that means I'm going to specify only one name. So this is one user whom I want this to be allowed. And what do you want to allow this user to access via FTP? Want to only read or write? I'll give the write also. If I give only read, that means user will not be allowed to upload their document in FTP server. So right now I'm going to give write. Okay, it's something like your YouTube video and all. Finish. Now here my FTP server is now hosted. Now I need to make sure that my client called Shadow can access this FTP server. Okay, now as I told you, there are many ways to access your FTP server. You might be using FileZilla, you might be using Qt FTP, or you might be using your network path. So in this example, in this video, I'm going to use only FTP, Qt FTP, your FTP app. Okay. Now the interface of this Qt FTP that is used for FTP accessing, it looks like this. Since this is a trial version, I have downloaded for your learning process. So it's asking for the serial number. I don't have right now because it's a free one. So we'll skip it. Don't worry. Skip it. Continue. Close it. Now this is the important screen for you. Now here you will have to write the name of that IP where FTP server is hosted. Okay, 192.168.1.100. Okay, and this is the name to that user who is allowed, who is authorized to use. Remember, we use the basic authentication. That means one specific user was only allowed to access this. That means it's secure. So the username was Shadow. And it's asking you what is the password of that user to whom this FTP is allowed to download and upload. So the password is this. Now I need to connect. See here. This means connect. Now it will list out all the folders and files. See, these were the files that was hosted in your FTP server. That means your FTP configuration is successfully done. But I also told you, since the permission is given for write, it will allow you to upload as well. Okay, now I need to show you practically that it does allow to upload. So let's create one document over here. Let's say, okay, let's go to pen brush only. I'd like to open one pen brush and draw something, and I'll upload in this my FTP server. So let's do it. Okay, now I'm gonna save it. Now let's do to save as. Okay, I'm gonna save it as a picture file because I want you to see practically that you are allowed to upload also. Okay, so that's why I'm giving this. I'll go to desktop and I'll give upload to FTP. Okay, this will be saved as a JPG. You can upload anything over here. So now this one, okay, let's see, upload to FTP. Now this folder's file, I'm gonna copy, okay, I'm gonna copy it, and I'm gonna paste it here, paste, successfully done. Okay, see this file, this one, JPG file. That means if I am assigned a permission over here to write, that means upload. So this way you can create your FTP server, you can set the authentication also over here, and only the one who's assigned in the basic authentication will be allowed to access this FTP server. I hope this small or short tutorial was quite enough for you to understand how the FTP server is hosted and how Qt FTP is used in order to access your FTP server. So if you find this one bit informative and fruitful in your day-to-day work as a system administrator, please do like and subscribe. Thank you.